Hello? Okay. Yesterday we saw a cartoon of the angel, the telomerase angel. Oh. And so, you know, things like that are things that people can, you know, put up on Facebook, you know, get an idea. You know, I'm sitting here going, we could do a DNA double-strand break simulation and the impact of that. We could discuss some of the mutations that happen in cancer and how those break things. And so, you know, things like that, you know, I'm not particularly skilled at putting together something like a cartoon simulation of a DNA double-strand break, but you know, there may be people we know that can do that type of thing. And so once you got those things, you both educate people. So it's like, this is what's going on in your body. And nature made a bad decision a long time ago, and we've been stuck with it. Well, now we have the power to change it, and you could go into things like, this is what a virus does, this is what a gene therapy does. Wouldn't it be nice if humanity could invent an H5N1 virus that instead of spreading more of the virus, made you immortal? That type of thing. Not immortal, but you know, add another 100 years to your life. So it's thinking in terms of what are these things that will catch your eye, you know, that people will start talking about. They might be a little controversial. And it's like, do you really believe we can do this? It was like the point about, is it real or not real? That was the interesting thing about it. And, you know, I believe it's real. No, that can't happen. Because that's hopefully the type of discussion you would generate, because there's a lot of people out there that say that can't happen. And as also was discussed, there was some discussion about that can't happen, or it, you know, fundamentally challenges my belief system. And that type of thing. So here we have another person's hand up.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to take one step backwards and to really talk about how do you go about financing big ideas? Because, you know, the content and the marketing and the branding is almost a secondary, in my opinion, it's almost a secondary issue. And so it's really, how do you go about when you're looking at a new paradigm? How do you go about dealing with that financial structure? And it's kind of interesting. I mean, one of the things that makes me think about, recently there was an interview with Vladimir Putin, and the interviewer said, if you had one word to describe the Russian economy, how would you describe it? And he thought about it for a few moments, and he said, good. And the interviewer came back and said, okay, if you had two words to describe the Russian economy, how would you describe it? He said, not good. But that's the macroeconomic environment that we're trying to launch, SENS. This is the macroeconomic environment that we're trying to launch the Manhattan Beach Project, which is that, you know, it's a very kind of uncertain economic environment. But I think that there are financing techniques and strategies. On the biological, on the technical side, there's been a tremendous amount of creativity over the last few days. And so there's no shortage on the technical side of creativity. The issue, the challenge, I think, is how do we step up and restructure the financial part of the challenge? And, you know, I came from the space industry, and it's a huge, huge challenge. It's a huge problem, but it's also a huge financial challenge. And I wrote an article many years ago about the X Prize. This was the $10 million prize that the X Prize Foundation put together to try to encourage the private development of spacecraft. And when the X Prize was won, it was the largest, the second largest media event in 2004. The single largest was the capture of Saddam Hussein. But they put a $10 million prize, and Burt Rutan, who's you know, the great California aerospace engineer, went after that prize. And one of the interesting things about the model is not only the model of prize money in terms of stimulating development, because, you know, that's been around for a long time. Charles Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic because he was challenged and he was incentivized by a prize. But the interesting thing about the X Prize model, or about the Burt Rutan model, is that he did find a sponsor. Paul Allen stepped in and put $30 million. And it was interesting because it was an important cause, but also Paul Allen did it based on the thought that he thought he'd actually get a return from this project. And he did. They ended up selling the concept to Richard Branson, who was a billionaire, and Richard Branson said, okay, I'm going to do Virgin Galactic. But even for a billionaire, the topic of space was not a simple thing. And Branson has just gone out recently, and he raised $250 million from the United Arab Emirates, and they're now 30% partners in the project. But the challenge, I think, is how do we look at these projects slightly differently? I'm involved with a foundation, and we provide clean water solutions in Africa. And it was the same sort of issue. How do you do this on a sustainable level? And we use carbon credits. The United Nations, UNDP, gives us carbon credits, fractional carbon credits for every liter of clean water that we filter. So we just signed a deal. We're going to be bringing up 400 villages in rural Africa. And it's all self-funded through the process of carbon credits. So the issue is that technically clean water is not a problem. We have all the technology today. It's an organizational issue around sustainable businesses, sustainable economics. And so I think that the challenge in order to launch what we've been talking about over the last 2 days is what are the creative financial structures to launch these ideas.
Thank you. I want to make a comment real quickly to answer Robert's question, and we got off, this is going out, there were a lot of branches that are coming out from the tree of questions, I guess you might say. And Joe touched on this, and I think he was going to write the copy and show it to us. But I think, and Joe, please comment on this if you disagree with me. The message that we get out to people, the grabber, you might say, has got to be simple and easy to understand. It's got to be obviously interesting, and it's got to show tremendous benefits. And we may have something like Joe, the problem, the solution, in very simple graphics and very simple animation. And Robert, I think that might be what you're talking about. And I think among us and with Oliver, I mean with Disney, I mean there's so many people in Hollywood around here that have the ability to do that. It's probably a no-brainer once we tell them what we need to have done. Mike here Turpin is going to had a question on that topic. So why don't you, how do we do it?
Really common, too. I'm Michael Turpin. I was around for a little bit yesterday and just a little bit today, so I apologize I wasn't around for everything, but I certainly got the sense of everything. I'm a serial entrepreneur in the online marketing and PR space, and I've raised $25 million from Silicon Valley, so I can maybe address both of these things, and working with Joe and David on one of their other companies. On the content side versus raising money, they really have to come together. And the X Prize, I know Peter pretty well and his crew. Every day there's multiple companies who raise $10 million on something boring and they don't get talked about at all. And it wasn't just the $10 million, it's the fact of what the $10 million meant and the fact that they did a great job marketing it. I just sort of scrawled down what I would say are kind of the 4 areas that content can fall in, and when they work together perfectly, that's when you have a groundswell. There would be news, opinion, inspiration, and engagement. And with the X Prize, you had all those. It was news that they raised this money from well-known people. There was opinion about whether it would be working or this or that, and a lot of dialogue happened on the blogosphere after that was announced, and people tracked it. It was inspiration to think that anybody with an idea could actually go and win this $10 million. And then it was engagement because people actually did follow it as it went along. So that's sort of the holy grail, is to get all of those. And I think that the opposite side of that is clutter. And the problem is you can't overlook the amount of clutter. The opportunity, and I agree with absolutely everything that Oliver said. He did a tremendous job at Rever, and he's doing great things now. And there are more people on Facebook than live in Brazil. It's the 4th largest country in the world, and it's growing at a much faster clip. Twitter also is an incredible platform. Google alone, when he said that they raised $36 million and got 1.2 million people registered to vote, and 1.1 million came for free through Google donating space, that shows you that basically the other stuff was not money well spent. And I think that the power of the blogosphere, which has gone in the last decade from 50 people, not 50,000, but 50 people to 150 million people, and the engagement levels you get there. Twitter, Facebook, other communities, LinkedIn, and that's been a proven platform for raising money, for getting causes going. I just heard somebody say that they had 120,000 followers and they were tweeting this, but it should have had a hashtag, and everybody should have known what the hashtag is. Sorry?
Hashtag is Max Life.
Okay. David is actually one of my Facebook friends. Hello. And so I think that that's obviously just the start. And I think that you have to decide whether you want to come out with a big bang, like once a year, do like a state of the art of anti-aging and have a big press conference in New York, or if you want to basically have a lot of grassroots initiatives, or you want to do a little bit of each. Right now, if I look up anti-aging, I could pick up other things too on Google. There are 600 current stories just from the last 30 days, and it's a complete melange of anti-aging light and purple food and this and that, and you can't tell the average person going on Google what's the clutter and what's true just from going on there. You have to have sort of a factor of trust, and that's really when everything comes together. So when you get a trusted brand that builds organically and then works its way up through the mainstream. That's my opinion.
Thank you.